It's really bright. Okay, like, is there a dimmer? Is there a dimmer? There's no dimmer. Not just an artist, problem solver. Hey guys, it's Sarah. Welcome to the Green Room, and this is Create a Day 34. I asked you guys a couple days ago what you wanted to see. I needed to do another YouTube edition, and you guys overwhelmingly suggested that you'd like to have an art tutorial. No one was really specific as to what they wanted to learn how to do, but I just decided to kind of make an executive decision, and I'm going to draw an eye. Whenever I'm bored and I have no idea what to draw, and I sit down, and it's usually a skull or an eye, and I really think that you guys could really benefit from learning how to draw an eye, because I think it makes a huge difference in portraits. So, yeah, if you've got any questions or if there's something I didn't cover, please feel free to comment below, and I'll try to get to all your questions as soon as I can. So enjoy our tutorial. Okay, so here are the tools you're going to need to create your eye sketch. First, there's a blending stump. In this case, I'm using a 3/4 inch blending stump, I think. Next, I'm going to use a pencil. Mechanical pencil was the next tool. Next, you're going to need an eraser. Either a kneaded eraser, I use that, that's my preference, or a rubber eraser. An optional choice is a mechanical eraser. I am now obsessed with this little machine, thanks to my friend Devin. You can follow him, also an artist. He introduced me to these. Fantastic, and we'll talk about those later. So first step, I like to start with a little bit of a cross on the page. A little wider than it is taller. After a while, you don't really have to do this step. You can kind of just figure that there's a cross there. I will admit I don't use the cross method anymore. It's just kind of like an invisible cross now. Okay, so we're going to take that cross that we've already drawn on the page, as you can see right there, sort of, really light. We're going to take all those lines that we've drawn and kind of connect them with a long, sweeping, curving line. So from each side, almost as an almond shape. Okay, so we're going to take the bottom left quarter panel, and we're going to extend the top line and kind of bring it out a little bit, round the edge under, and this is going to be kind of where the tear duct is, the corner of the eye, the inner corner. And again, you can use a pencil for this entire steps. I just prefer to lay my lines down lightly first. So we're now going to work on the iris of the eye. So it all depends on where you want the eye to be looking, obviously. So I'm going to choose to do just a neutral eye, staring straight ahead. So you're going to do a nice round circle in the middle, kind of following the outer edge. So just a nice big pupil. I guess it's not the pupil at all, is it? It's the iris. Come on, brush up my anatomy. A really great way to make your image more dynamic is to really get your lighting effect down. So we've decided that the light source is going to come from the top right-hand corner, and that's going to mimic the reflection in the eye, so we've chosen to do it in that top quarter panel. So the light reflection is just for now a nice white circle that you're not going to fill in at all. You notice we missed a step here, so we will go back and address that step, that the lid is there. So don't worry, we're going to go back and address it. So that's the light reflection, and I don't know what all the rest of those extra hand motions were for. Now that we've got almost the entire eye established, we've got our light source, we've got the iris, we've got the outline, we have to work on our pupil. So we're going to make a tiny little circle. It should pretty much encompass the entire inner cross that we've established at the beginning of the video. And we're going to make a circle, same shape as the outer circle, which would have been the iris, and you're going to fill it all in completely. This will be the darkest part on your entire image. So we're going to fill that pupil right in. So you'll notice there is no light source or pupil in this eye, and it's because, well, we missed a step. So just imagine that it's there for now. We're going to address the upper lid, so I guess it'd be the crease of the eye. And it's just a long sweeping arced line that mimics the top arced line of the eye that we've already done. It's a little thinner as it gets toward the outer edge of the eye, and a little bigger, but not by much. So just emphasize that crease. So now we've got our whole eye established. Again, the upper lid is there, the inner part of the eye is there, so now we're going to do a little bit of shading, which is really going to make that eye pop. You have to remember that the eye is round, which is what I think that hand motion was. So the shading really is a little bit more concentrated towards the top part, depending on mostly where the light source is. Because that lid is a little heavy, you want to color in that top part of the eye a little bit more than you would the bottom. And this is where you can establish that bottom lower lid. You just sort of round out the shading underneath, a little away from that bottom line you've drawn in the eye. And that'll create your lower lid. I think I'll do that in 1 minute. Just sweep it around there. Shadow, shadow, shadow. So now we're going to start working on the texture in the inner part of the eye. Pulling some lines away from the inside of the pupil, just kind of in starburst formation, is the best way to start. They don't have to be the same length, they don't have to be the same texture, they don't have to be the same thickness, just as long as they follow the starburst formation. Kind of making the inner part of the pupil look like a sun for now. I'm just going to do a little bit of that first, and then after that step, which you'll be able to see a little bit more when we're starting to harden in those lines a little later in the video. But start shading the top part of the eye a little bit darker than the bottom part of the eye. This is when all you people that are saying, I can't see it, it's too light. Well, here I'm going to start roughing everything in with pencil. I'm using a mechanical pencil. You can also use a number 2 HB pencil, but I don't really like them all that much. I like the harder lines, so I don't get rid of that. Alright. I'm going to start roughing everything in with pencil. You're basically just following all the lines you've already created with your pencil. I use the blending stump first, like I said, because the lines are a little easier to erase, and I like the dimension it gives once you start hardening in the lines, as you're going to see happening in a few minutes. Here is an optional step. It's not 100% necessary. It's just better for blending, for me, to use the blending stump. You can use your finger, but you're basically just softening all the lines. If you really pay attention to a portrait, there are very little lines. It's more shading, and I think that's what really takes portraiture from 1 to 10, is paying attention to the fine, fine, fine details. So again, I'm using a blending stump, but you don't have to. So now we're going to establish the lashes, and I think that this is another really important part of an eye, the eyelashes, and when they're done correctly, it's a really dynamic part of the piece. So you are using the cross that you've established at the beginning of the video to get the directional flow of the eyelashes. So you're going to take that bottom point of the cross, the very bottom point, as I've now established with my hand motions, and you're going to create a line. I use a ruler sometimes, but since I don't have a ruler, I'm going to take this piece of paper right here, fold it in half, and then fold it in half again just to get a nice stiff edge. And you don't really need a ruler, you just need something that's going to create a straight line. Use a book, use a magazine, whatever. So you're going to take that bottom point of the cross and connect it with the outer corner of the eyelash and create a long sweeping line. And then you're going to do the same to the other half of the eye. You're going to take the bottom point of that cross and take it to the outer edge of that eye and create a long sweeping line. And then you're also going to use that top part of the that cross, so the bottom to top line. So now you've got your directional flow of your eyelashes. So you're going to take your eyelashes and you're going to sweep them outwards in the direction, almost like there's a fan of your eyelashes. And the only time it really gets complicated is when you get towards the middle or upper part of the, I'll remove the book to adjust. I've been instructed by the director, Bronwyn. Start all over again. So yes, sweeping lines that are a little harder. There you go. So fan them outwards. 1, 2, 3, and we're probably going to speed that up for editing purposes. It only gets complicated when you get to the top part of the eye right here, so it's kind of, they're pointing outwards, but when you look at an eye, it basically looks like it's just going straight upwards. So again, outwards in that fan motion. And lashes do get smaller as you get close to the inner part of the eye. Now you're just going to point them all together in little clusters of 3 at first, I like to do. You're going to almost make like, what was that hand motion? Almost make these tiny triangles or tiny peaks of eyelashes, little clusters of 3 connecting to each one. A really good way to make eyelashes realistic are to do different texture of line, different thickness of line if you prefer. The inner part of the eye, again, is the most difficult, but you're going to make it like a peak. And you can see it kind of makes it look like it's popping towards you if you do it right. So you're just going to lay in a lot of lines of different lengths, again getting smaller as you get closer to the inner part of the eye. And then you can just customize them to your preference. If you're making drag lashes, make them super thick. If you're making baby lashes, make them super thin, although some babies have freakishly long lashes. Now we're going to do the bottom set of lashes. If you remember before when we were doing the inner part of the shading, we established an inner lash, or an inner lid, I suppose. And you have to remember where the lashes actually come from, the bottom part of the eye. I really suggest taking a good look at images of eyes. A lot of reference pictures help me. That really gives you a good idea of where things actually exist. So we've used the top V, or a bottom V, to establish the fan and the top part of the lashes. We're going to do the same thing, so except using the top point of that cross we've established at the beginning part of the video, and create that fan pattern but opposite to the top. So they're, again, a little bit more sparse on the bottom part of the lash. Again, if you're wearing, oh man, I say again a lot in this, don't I? We're just going to forget about that. Again, again, again. Unlike the top lid, the bottom set of lashes are a lot more sparse, so there's less. You just have to keep that in mind unless you're going again for that drag look. Keeping them less is more realistic. You're still going to follow the same basic rules. So if you set up your one set, and you're going to make those triangles again. When you're customizing your lashes like you did at the top step, when you're filling them in and making them a little bit thicker, just completely forget about that inner part of the eye from the middle inwards, because they don't really have that many lashes. Pay attention to your eyes, maybe take a peek in a mirror. You don't have as many lashes in the in part of the eye as you do in the outer part of the eye, so just keep that in mind. So just to take a step back, if you haven't used a reference picture already, which I do highly suggest, I use them a lot, and I think that really helps. Just take a step back and really look at your eye and see where you feel things need to be darker, where you think things need to be a little bit lighter. I like to really darken in the center part of the eye, and I think shadows make that image really pop. So if you've noticed in this little speed video, I'm really spending time darkening those little starbursts in the center and fine-tuning the eyelashes. So this is just really a point where you take your artistic freedom and just sort of finalize your piece. So again, like I mentioned before the video, this is my first art tutorial, and if it is confusing, please just let me know. We will get better as the year goes on, but just be patient. If you have any questions, again, just comment below, and I'll love to keep up with your work. So hashtag, hey Sarah, look what I did, so I can keep up with your work. I'd love to see some of it.